The Middle of the Pack podcast. Hey runners, welcome to the Middle of the Pack podcast, the podcast that keeps you moving. I'm your host Padraig, and I'm thrilled to have you join me today. We're lacing up our shoes and we're ready to talk about all things running. I'm a runner just like you, navigating the ups and downs of training, racing, and everything in between. We'll dive into practical tips and real conversations about what it's like to be a runner who's chasing progress and not perfection. So, whether you're starting out on your running journey, a middle of the pack runner, or a seasoned marathoner, this podcast is for you. So let's get started and dive in to the Middle of the Pack podcast.
So the first time I stood in a start line was the start line of the Cork City Marathon.
Welcome to episode 4 of Middle of the Pack podcast. I'm your host Padraig, and you just heard there Clodagh O'Neill, who is our guest on this week's show. She is an extraordinary character in a way because, as you heard there, her first race was the Cork City Marathon, and it is a trend at the moment that a lot of people are entering into marathons as their first big experiences of race. But the interesting thing for me, as you'll hear in the journey that Clodagh took, is that she was sensible about it. She followed a plan. She ran with people of experience, and she still had the daunting task of stepping up onto the start line of a marathon as her first race. So it's a fabulous story. So join me now as myself and Clodagh chat about all things running and all things marathon, especially as we're coming up to Dublin. How are you keeping anyway?
I'm good. How are you getting on? Getting all ready for Dublin?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
All the aches and pains are kicking in. But you're not doing Dublin, are you?
No, I'm not. Just the way the summer went, the ticket scramble was just madness. And the only ticket I could get my hands on was a charity one. And I didn't have the time this summer to raise the funds because it's a few thousand, all right. And I did get offered a place through Focus Ireland, but you have to come up with 3,000 on your own. And if you don't fundraise it, it's out of your pocket. And just with the wedding and the house, I didn't have the time to do the fundraising, so I had to let it go. But kind of kicking myself now, looking at everybody getting ready and out for their running and wishing I was part of all that.
Yeah. So how was the wedding? How's been the aftermath?
We were just blessed with the day, the 11th of July, the sunshine we got. We were so lucky. We had the best day of our lives, thankfully. But there was a moment, we went to the National Park in Killarney for our pictures, and it was nearly 30 degrees in temperature. I couldn't believe it. I was nearly going to have a meltdown over the weather. I was like, look, let's get back to the hotel, get the big dress off, put on something more comfortable and just dance our evening away. Enough was enough then at that stage with the heat. But we had the best day ever. We went down to the Muckers Park for the reception, and sure, they couldn't do enough for you down there. It was just the day of a fairy tale.
Brilliant. And what's your day job? Do you mind?
I'm a social worker. No, not at all. So I am a social worker and a children's play therapist, and I'm based in a family resource centre in Mayfield, Newbury House at the moment.
Very good. So then you're trying to fit in your running. Is that a full-time job?
It is full-time. It's the full 40 hours a week, not necessarily 9 to 5. It's kind of in line with the family's needs that you're working with. So sometimes a lot later than, say, 5 o'clock finishes, or on the other side of it, a lot earlier starts than 9, depending what's happening on any given week. So yeah, it sometimes can be tricky to get all the runs in every week.
But tell me, one of the reasons when I was thinking about people, when we were training together that night at Kieran's, you were telling me that your first race was the Cork Marathon, and I nearly fell into the River Lee thinking, jeepers, how did that come about?
Yeah, that's right. So for some reason, some version of me last January, early February decided that she wanted to run a marathon. And God knows why, because I didn't own a pair of running shoes. I had never done so much as a park run or run more than, I would say, 10 kilometres in my life. I wasn't part of an athletics club. And it was just something I had an itch to do. And I went having a little bit of a look around, and Cork City was there. So in my naivety, I said, you know what? That's what we'll do now. We'll sign up for the Cork City Marathon. I knew absolutely nothing about running, but I think when you start, you'll learn very, very quickly. So from there, I did say, look, we need a good pair of running shoes at a minimum. I went into John Buckley's and they were fantastic in there. They'll have a look at the gait, they'll measure the feet, and they recommended a stability shoe for me because I have a slightly lower arch in one of my feet. And from that point off I went. I just started to run. I got a rude awakening the first night I went out. I was gasping for air after about 2 kilometres in, I would say. So
Yeah.
I learned the hard way that this was just, a far bigger task than I had ever envisaged. The full marathon is absolutely no easy feat. So I kind of would have learned a lot on my own. I did a lot of Googling and trying to find out, how do I start? And the first thing I learned was go slow to go fast, run so slow it's like a satire, start running for time rather than distance. So I gave up on the distance and I said, look, if you could even run for 10 minutes unbroken here, it'll be better than the night before. Then 20 minutes unbroken here and it'll be better than the night before. And after about 4 weeks of doing that, I went out and did my first, say, 5K unbroken, and slowly from there built it up week by week. But I knew absolutely nothing. I didn't know what a tempo run was. I'd never done an interval and I'd never changed pace. Like, I just went out and started doing these things on my own. So the first time I stood on a start line was the start line of the Cork City Marathon.
Yeah, and I still can't get my head around that because when
Yeah,
I started, I did, like yourself, just trying to get past the first kilometer,
yeah,
2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, and that's always the hardest. That is still,
absolutely.
even
Horrendous. Yeah,
when you go for a run. But then eventually, when I hit the 5K, I took the nerve-wracking step of going to a park run, and then from a park run, kind of got a few races under my belt.
yeah,
It must have been just so daunting. Then your first race in,
yeah.
and not just a small, any old crowd, it's a big
Huge
crowd.
feat, huge crowd. What I would say is sometimes ignorance is bliss. I really do think not knowing what was to come in some ways was my best friend on that day. But around, I would say March, April of last year, I joined a Fit for Life group with Toker. So I needed a bit of company on a Sunday morning for the long runs. So I would head off with Michelle and the Fit for Life gang from Toker. And
Is
we'd
that
do anything ranging from maybe 10 to 16 kilometers, starting small. I started out doing 10Ks with them and eventually built up to the 16K with them. But they wouldn't do more than a 16K on a Sunday. So my first half marathon was just on my own on the Rochestown Passage West railway line. And off I went with my gels, hoping for the best. About 12, 13K in, I had to ring my mother to bring a water bottle to a car park nearby. Again, no experience, not realizing you actually need to fuel and have stuff on you for doing this. So it was totally and utterly learning as you go along, with a little bit of listening to your body as well, because I was thinking for a while, I'm just chronically unfit. This isn't really getting much easier. But after my first half, for the day or two, I would have had a really bad pain in my chest and something, it just wasn't right. So I went to my GP and they checked everything out, did the bloods and did an ECG. And I was actually diagnosed with athletically induced asthma. And once I had the inhalers, all of that stopped. So that was a huge learning curve for me. I just thought I was unfit and wasn't used to it, but it was actually a form of asthma I was experiencing on the longer runs. So that was massive as well in getting fit and getting the miles on the legs.
athletically induced asthma? I hadn't heard
Yeah.
of that.
So
Wow.
there was a real tightening of the bronchus in the lungs and the oxygen wasn't getting through it. For all the world, felt like trying to breathe through a straw. And I put it down to lack of fitness and lack of running experience. But the tightness in the chest was lasting for 3, maybe 4 days after the really long runs. And I just said, look, just in case there's something I don't know about or something that can help, I'll visit the old GP. So I would say to anyone starting out, listen to your body. And if something is persistent or doesn't feel right, talk to some professional, especially if you're doing what I'm doing and you're trying to figure it all out on your own for the first time.
Yeah. So did you use what training program did you use then, or any at all, or was it
I
just?
didn't really, I got advice from people. I didn't really have it. I knew that I needed to get out running at least 4 times a week. And I knew one of my runs had to be a long run. And then I just filled in the gaps myself. So, like my long runs, I knew it was either a set time and people had said no more than 2 hours running. The most I'd gotten to before the day of the marathon was 30K, which in hindsight probably isn't enough. You'd want to be hitting the 35 anyway to get you to the
Mm.
42. It's not the worst, but I think I would like to have done more because on the actual day itself, at 30 to 30K, maybe 31K, I got a panic hit. I was somewhere I hadn't been before. The wheels were starting to fall off here. The feet were sore, the knees were sore, the burning had kicked in. And the doubt starts to creep in, who do you think you are? And you're not a marathon runner, and why did you do this? And all of this kind of starts to hit you. And I hadn't been to that point before. So that was all new.
Yeah.
In hindsight, had I gone a little further in training, I would have known that this is okay. It doesn't mean you're going to stop. We have to know running a marathon is going to be hard. It's never going to be easy. No matter how much you train, you're still going to have to fight for it on the day of the race. I suppose in my experience, the training just made that race pain a little more tolerable. You don't train for it to be easy. In some ways, you train to know what's to come. So I definitely think had I had a proper training schedule and had gone to 35 kilometers beforehand, that would have helped as well.
Yeah, I mean it was it was my first marathon as well, so I was in that panic, and I think I said this in one of the earlier episodes as well. You know, everyone talks about that wall, which is in and around that 30 to 35K, and then that's only as far as anyone. I think 33 might have been as far as I had ran, and then there was more experienced runners running up to 35. But then I'm going, if we're going to hit that wall at that time, I,
Yeah.
like when I ran a half marathon, I had trained and I had run a half marathon in training, you know, obviously a 5K and a 10K. So I was going, surely I should just run a marathon so I'm not going to get the panic. But
Yeah. Oh, no.
I still got the panic.
Panic arrives. Yeah, but I mean, this is where like you can't speak highly enough about the running community. I mean, the reality of nobody cares what time you finish in. Everybody wants you to win that day and wants you to get it over the line. Like the Pacers, I was with Gary O'Donovan now and John Healy, and the two men were just gents. They wanted us to finish more than we wanted ourselves, and they did absolutely everything from carrying extra water bottles at the water stations to talking nonstop if that's what you needed to distract you from the pain to get you to the line. Plus the runners around us, like they're incredible runners, people with way more experience than I had. I met one lady, Claire Milan. By the end of it, the two of us are best friends, but I wouldn't have got to the end of that line without her. And she'd say the same thing. We just found each other at the right time. Like I was in total crisis and meltdown mode, and she was coming back from an illness, so she wasn't feeling great either. So like that was my running buddy for the day. The two of us clung to each other from there on out and actually crossed the line together. Because there was quite a funny moment. Somebody asked me, what's your friend's name? They were taking a photograph. And I was like, I actually don't know this woman. I just met her there at kilometre 30 and we're there holding hands going over the line.
Yeah,
So,
best friends.
it happened. It's just the running community are absolutely incredible. Everybody wants you to finish regardless of their status themselves.
Yeah, and this, like, to me, you're absolutely right. Nobody ever says like you're slow, or nobody ever says you're not. Everyone is just so supportive. And even now I've joined a club, Eagles running club, and you know, the message goes out. Everyone is going out at different paces, and nobody at the end goes, "Jeepers, Patrick, you were really slow," or "Jeepers," you know. And even when we go to track sessions, and oh, I'm jumping ahead of myself now, but you've joined Kieran's group, and it was the
Yeah.
same thing that people just go, "We're going to run out for 20 minutes and run back for 20 minutes,"
And
or
go for it. And that was it. Like Kieran's group, there are some fantastic runners, and I would easily be the slowest runner in Kieran's group, but that's never an issue when we're out training. There's nothing but support from everybody, and it doesn't matter how fast or how slow you are. Just go out there, and it can be daunting. And knowing that, look, these people are going to be faster, and how am I going to look? And forget about it. Leave those thoughts at home. Nobody cares. Even the more elite runners in Kieran's group, you know yourself, they're nothing but encouraging you and bringing you along.
yeah, yeah.
So it's a fantastic group. But and that running program as well that Kieran has us on is phenomenal. Like what I know now versus what I knew this time last year is scary.
So you're obviously not on a marathon block now. You're just doing. He's got you on a general running.
General, yeah, yeah. So there's a few bits and pieces, and I actually think back. It was after the Cork City Marathon. I kind of said I need a bit of help with the running because even listening to runners out there talking about base runs, tempo runs, zone two, I was there going, what are they on about? And then different types of running shoes. I only had one pair of runners. I didn't even know these things existed. So I kind of said I better do a bit more research here, and I had been listening to the Runner's Diary podcast, and I'd followed your journey as a leader as well.
Very
And that's
good.
how I came across Kieran. So I got on to him and we had a chat and he sent out a program for the first week. And I looked, I was like, what in God's name is a pickup? Do you know? I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
no idea what all this was, and tempo runs in it, and then like a nice conversation running. I sent a voice and I was like, Kieran, I don't understand the program, let alone be able to do it. And he just laughed and talked me through it. But even in the 8-ish weeks, like the improvements are crazy. There's 3 minutes gone off my 5K time already in that.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So I do wonder if I had a program like that, what would the marathon time have been and how would I have gotten on in the actual marathon? But I am planning on doing Cork City again next summer, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's very good. So what did you finish? What was your time for Cork?
I clung for my dear life to the 5 hour pacers, and all I wanted to do was finish, and that's what I did. So I'm hoping if he did it again, somewhere between a 4 and a 4:30.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, because
Yeah.
even the night that we were training, I mean, I would have thought you were definitely at my pace, and I'm not fast, as you know.
No, you're fast and you give yourself credit for.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think something I held on too much. There was probably more in the tank at the start of the race, what got me more than actually being out of breath was the aches and pains, the knees went, and the back kind of started to get sore. And Kieran was saying that can happen. A 5-hour marathon can sometimes be more painful than maybe a 4:30. You're out there pounding the joints.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I had to look at my heart zones. I only learned about heart zones from chatting with Kieran and the gang. Like I was in like zone 2 and 3 for that marathon. I didn't ever go to zone 4 or 5. So I could
Wow.
have pushed. I didn't know. I was kind of thinking, this is my first 42 kilometers. I want to hold on to every reserve I can without actually knowing that probably did more damage. I could have probably done that much quicker, and I would have been in less pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I talk to people that that say, oh, I it took me 5 hours, 5.5 hours, and people forget that they're running much longer, and it's a much
Yeah.
bigger achievement to a certain extent that you finished the marathon in that time, and yeah, the aches and pains. But I mean, he said it to me from the get go as well. We must try and get your time down because, but it's a
Pressure on the body.
yeah,
Yeah.
long time running. But those heart zones are brilliant. Like you weren't pushing yourself,
No, because
according
I
to
had
that.
it in my head that you need to hold on. Everyone talks about the wall, which probably does exist. But for me, it wasn't that the body was exerted, it was the joints were tired. That's kind of what
Yeah,
started to happen. That's where I started to get caught. And I coming in through Fitzgerald's Park there and across the bridge, my knees are screaming at me, but everything else was fine. It was the joints. So it's just lack of experience, really. I didn't have a race strategy. All I wanted to do that day was just to finish it. And that's what happened. And I suppose for your first one, everything is a PB. Crossing the finish line is a PB. And look, that was
absolutely.
a great moment in itself, getting to the finish. It's very surreal, I think, the finish line of your first marathon. It's kind of, did this really just happen moment?
Yeah,
It's absolutely surreal. It was one of the best feelings and the best highs you'll ever encounter. But then I think everything hits you, because I remember standing there, getting the medal, seeing family, thinking, I feel like I'm going to get sick. What's after happening here? I was like, I knew
yeah.
I was sore. God, I'm a lot sorer than I thought I was. I had great plans to go out that night. Absolutely not. I was on the couch with ice packs. I was going nowhere that night.
But it is interesting. I think, when you talk about crossing the line, when you start, have you done any more official races yet, or is
No, I actually
none?
haven't, because after the marathon, I went straight into wedding mode, which was July, the month we just gone. So I kind of said I'm going to give myself August and September. There's a nice half marathon in Lahinch that I'm looking at.
Yeah,
So I'm going to see how we get. The training is going well. So I think I might sign up for that one and get the old long distance running shoes out again and get myself ready.
yeah. Because what I was going to say is the finish line experience in an official race, whether it's a 5K or a 10K or a half marathon, it's still great because I'm surprised the number of people that support and cheer and get you over the line. It's brilliant. Like it's really good.
Yeah.
So, so you're talking about have you gone into shoe rotation mode yet? Have you have you gone into
I need to get myself a pair of tempo running shoes, and everyone's talking about different shoes. So no, I'm still not in rotation. I have the Hoka Gaviotas, and I absolutely love them. I would swear by them. They're the most comfortable things. They're like running on clouds.
yeah,
And I didn't get an ounce of bother, like no injuries during the training block, nothing long term post race, usually aches and pains, but nothing, like they didn't let me down. I'm kind of very much stick with what works. If it's not broken, don't fix it. But I do need to get a
absolutely.
lighter pair of shoes for the smaller stuff, the tempo stuff, the intervals. Absolutely do need to get myself another
Yeah.
pair for it.
So how did
Yeah.
you fuel yourself then? What did you do?
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of reading and listening about to other people. And one thing I had heard is you'd want to be getting about 50 grams of carbs per hour of running. So we
Hmm.
tried out different gels on the training block, and the Power Cell ones really worked for me. They were lovely. I could stomach them. They weren't upsetting the gut. So kind of every 30 to 40 minutes, I had one of those because I had the little vest on me. I had one of those. And then everyone had said, take water at every station, even if you don't want it, you'll be thankful for it late in the race. So I was taking the water every station. I took the Powerade drinks every station. Some people were just rinsing them out with those. I actually took a little sip of them. All that was fine. And then in the later stages of the race, in and around the housing estates, there's small children, as you would have seen, giving you chocolate, jellies, everything that's there, neighbours coming out with water, garden hoses, glass of water. So that, like, I probably shouldn't have had taken everything that I was offered from the kids, because that, after a while, will upset the gut. There was one
Yeah,
stage,
yeah,
like, thankful that there was a bathroom there, because it would have been a very different situation if not. So very thankful for that. But 50 grams of carbs per hour was the goal. So that's kind of 2 gels every hour. And I had tried the Power Cell before that and it worked for me. But I had a few extras. And of course, there's people around that need them. So I'd handed out gels to people running as well.
Oh, very good. You see,
Yeah.
I think all those things, people forget that the things we've discussed, you were running for longer, you're taking more gels than other people, and
Yeah.
everyone talks about, that you start feeling sick with all the gels. But if you're doing a under a sub 3 marathon, you're not taking you're not out as long and you're not taking as much gels. So yeah, we have it much harder, and
Yeah, we have much harder than that, though. That elite lot don't mind then. But there
yeah.
was a point where kind of halfway, I was like, I couldn't get into halfway was a huge mark in itself. That's kind of the first point of the race where you're thinking there's actually more behind me now than there's ahead of me, which is fantastic. And then you remember there's some elite runners that be finished this, but in major marathons, there's people that can do this in 2:30, and here I am at halfway, and there's somebody somewhere in the world that can run a full marathon in this time. And it puts into perspective how impressive those elite runners really are. It's absolutely incredible to think of the times that were there on the day.
But you'll see with the training you've already said you've knocked minutes off your 5K, and once you start training with sessions and getting more races under your belt, you
Yeah.
must have to
Yeah.
try a park run.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
again, I'm still getting over your heart rates for the marathon. But if you're out on even on a park run and you're going to try and race it, you'd be surprised what your times might be, or if you enter a
Yeah.
race. But I'm sure you'll speak to your coach, Kieran, about that. But the thing is, a lot of people don't experience a marathon, but then the benefit of being able to talk about that for you must be an amazing thing because you haven't gone through the other stages.
The other,
And
exactly, yeah. And
so
it's funny when you talk to people, when you mention, or people talk, what's your experience? And you'd say, I finished Cork City this year. On the back of that, they assume that you've loads done. And the next question is, and what were your halves like before this? And what was your park run experience like? And I'm kind of standing there going, no, that was my first start line and my first finish line. So that does surprise a lot of people. And in hindsight, I can now see why. Knowing what I know, I can absolutely see why people are like, Christ, you went straight for the big one. But that's what I wanted. Growing up, you'd always see runners, and the marathon was this unobtainable thing. It was a thing just for exceptional fit people. But I learned now that that's not necessarily true. You can be, like you would say yourself, a middle of the pack runner. Or
yeah, yeah,
on that day, I would have said I was probably the back of the pack runners because we were the later finishers. It's for everybody. It's not just for your Olympic athletes. Like, realistically, how many of us are going on to the Olympics? You're out
yeah,
there, you're running for yourself. For me, I was running socially, and it just turned into something much bigger than that. I crossed the finish line for a full marathon, had never even completed a park run. But with that, I did still put in the miles within the training block. It wasn't like I hadn't run as such. I just hadn't done it competitively. I'd done the fives, the tens, the halves, and I'd went to the 30 once within the training block. Now I say training block, it's whatever I conjured myself more than an actual structured block, but it got me to the finish line.
yeah. But it's obviously worked. So I mean, the research you put in was obviously very good, which is
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
a credit
Learned,
to you.
yeah.
I mean, I was definitely one of those people that just couldn't believe you had done all those. You hadn't done anything, and your start line and finish line was the marathon. But
Yeah.
so your plans, you're going to do a Lahinch next.
There's a half marathon up in Lahinch, and I think it's the 24th of September. So I think that will be dust the cobwebs off and kind of get the miles back on and see what the body says. I keep saying I need to do the local park run, which would be Tramore Valley Park for me. And have I done it yet? No. I've never been a morning person. And I think that was the hardest part for me to start getting the early runs in around the start time of Cork City. Going out running at 8, half 7, 8 o'clock in the morning just wasn't for me. I'd be quite the opposite. I love the evening runs. The later, the better. The summer nights, I could go away at 9 o'clock, half 9. It's still bright for the run. And that suited me. And that's when I felt the strongest and was hitting the best times. So when I started doing the earlier running, my body was going, what is this? This is not the time for running. So even within that, there was an adjustment there and getting the algorithm right and used to the early morning. I got an awful fright when I saw the start was 8:15 a.m.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even for me, that was a worry because, but
Yeah.
as
How are
you
we going
say,
to get
once,
breakfast even?
yeah, and
Like how do I get the fuel in here to make sure we can run this?
that's still my worry for Dublin in the fact that it's fine when you've got your own home comforts, but then staying in a hotel the night before and having to get up and run for, I think it's 8:45 in Dublin, but it's still, you
Yeah, it's
know,
still early, and
yeah,
if you're not in your own home, you're trying to, like, it's harder to plan your breakfast. You can't, reach into the press and pull out the bowl of porridge. So
yeah. But
you'll be staying in Dublin for.
a park run is 9:30. you can definitely make a Tramore Valley Park run.
I can definitely do that one, yeah. No, the nighttime runs now look much more appealing. I'm sure there was a Cork 10K by night there not so long ago, and Brezzy does the runway runs in the darkness.
Yeah.
They probably where I would do best for some reason. The evening training sessions always suit me better.
Run in the Dark I think is coming up, and that's from the marina, and that's a 5K and a 10K, so you could take your pick. That's a good cause and a great experience as well. So I can't convince you to join the local park run yet. So I'm still kind of fascinated that you've chosen a half marathon as opposed to, again, looking for an official race that would be less distance. Is it your divil for punishment?
Do you know what it is? I kind of find when you're a totally novice, you can nearly turn yourself off those shorter distance because they are exceptionally painful if you go out too hot.
Yeah, 5K race is for me would definitely be the hardest because, but if you're pushing for a time, it's the hardest. 10K is a little bit easier.
Yeah, in some ways, the longer the distance, they're more of a slow burner. You can settle into it if you have a good VO2 max and you can settle into your stride and find what's comfortable.
Yeah.
Where with those shorter runs, my God, they hurt. They hurt an awful lot.
Because I did the Cork City 10K and, I started off, I was caught in the crowd and then it was like trying to negotiate that. And if that was a 5K, there was no hope I was going to get my PB or whatever, a fast time. Whereas you can catch up a little bit on a slightly longer run,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we can't convince you to do anything less than that. So
maybe I just think I need to get used to it. It's a different kind of style of running. I need more intervals and more tempo runs.
So we'll all have to follow your journey back to Cork next year. When you get back into the training block for that, we'll have you back on and see where you're at.
Look forward to it. So I'd love the goal for next year is somewhere between 4 and 4:30. It's hard to know. Am I being too optimistic, knocking an hour off? But looking at the heart rate zones from last year, I don't think so. I think it's possible, but anything can happen on race day. And I suppose people need to remember there will be other finish lines if things don't go right. I know we all want to finish. It's an incredible feeling, but the race will come again and there'll be another one and there will be another one. So if things don't go right the first time, it's not your only crack. You can try again.
Absolutely. So that's fabulous. And listen, as I said, I was blown away by I think it was so brave to go for it without the experience, but it's obviously served you well and you're confidently. Yeah. And I think that'll be a huge encouragement to anybody. And it's possible just to do a 5K or a 10K on the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just take the next step. I mean, that's probably the best advice I got in the day from one of the pacers. Like, I know it hurts, but if you can take the next step, that's all you need to do. And you keep taking the next step, one step at a time. If you start thinking about what's ahead of you, it's 20K, it's whatever. No, just take your next step and focus on what you can do right now and you will get there. And that's the same for anything. If you're doing your first 5, 10, half or full, take the next step and keep going.
Okay. That's good place to finish, taking the next step. So listen, Clodagh, thanks a million for joining us.
Not at all. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure and hopefully I'll see you on a Tuesday afternoon very soon.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Padraig. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye. And that was Clodagh O'Neill talking about her journey to her first marathon and her first actual starting line, which is amazing. Join me next week. We'll have Karen Toomey. You'll hear all about her. She is an influencer, she's a teacher, and she is a great guest to have on. So join us at the Middle of the Pack podcast next week for our chat with Karen Toomey. But for now, thanks for listening and join us again